We'll get started in a few minutes. We'll give folks a few minutes to come in. I'd just like to ask people who are in the room, who are on their iPhones or iPads, to type in their name so we know who you are. That would be super helpful. And welcome again. Hi, Marianne. Thank you. So I will introduce myself. I'm Joanna Roach. I'm the Executive Director of GSN Planet. I'm here tonight with Megan Temesco, who is in the control room manning all of the Zoom things that she is so good at it. And thank you for doing that, Megan. So she'll help anyone if you guys have problems. I'm really excited about tonight's conversation in terms of sustainability and learning what our esteemed panelists are really thinking about and talking about, because this is the kind of conversation that shapes this industry. And we are really thrilled that all of you can have joined tonight to participate. So I'd like to introduce Natasha Prybyla. She is the owner of Sloco in San Luis Obispo. She has a very sustainable spa. She's also the chair of our sustainability committee. And Cliff Bast, who's also on the call, is her co-chair, also a sustainability expert. And she's going to be moderating the panel tonight. So thank you very much for doing that in advance, Natasha. And on the panel, we have Brian Bode of Hey Bode. We have Hugh Huffaker, and we have Michael. And Michael, I'm not going to last name on the screen here. Okay. He's from Moor Mud. We have Jeannie Jarnot from Beauty Heroes. And each one of these people brings a very interesting perspective to the work that is happening in this field. Michael, I know that you are really an expert in packaging, and you've been doing this a long time. Jeannie has an incredible brand and store in Novato, California. Brian has launched a brand new shampoo and interesting sustainable packaging line. And Hugh, you have just started to participate in GSN, and you've got your hand in a bunch of different businesses. So it would be really great, I think, if each of the panelists could kind of introduce themselves and give an overview of what your brand is. And then Natasha, I will hand this off to you. Okay. So let's start with Hugh. Why don't we start with you?
Great, thanks. My name's Hugh Huffaker. I'm the CEO of two businesses. One of them is on the skincare side of things. That is actually named CAUSE+MEDIC. And then additionally, I have, we sell everything from, it's a farm to bottle company. We grow quite a few of our ingredients, and we're trying to get more and more active in the farming community, which actually led to my other company, which is called Clean Republic. And we actually make a hospital grade EPA registered disinfectant with using the only ingredients of water, salt, and electricity. And, interestingly enough, we sort of fell into this we were looking for something to oxidize off powdery mildew on crops. And we kept coming back to hypochlorous acid, which is the infection fighting compound in your white blood cells. So not only do we spray it on our own crops, but we also sell it as a disinfectant.
Okay, let's go to Jeannie. Why don't you tell us about you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeannie Jarnot. I'm the founder of Beauty Heroes. Beauty Heroes started 7 years ago as a discovery platform to help people discover truly healthy beauty. I really grew up in the spa industry and was very much inspired by my career there to give consumers a way to navigate truly healthy beauty. We have a monthly subscription service, and we are an online retailer with the most stringent ingredients standard in this industry. We really look beyond ingredients that are healthy for our bodies, but also make sure that they're biodegradable and safe to go into the environment after we use them. And right before, 6 months before the pandemic, we opened a brick and mortar store in Northern California. So we carry over 110 brands. We don't have a brand of our own. So what I see is I'm getting pitched with brands all day, every day, definitely brands with a sustainability slant, and the cleanest and healthiest brands in the world. So that's a lot of what I'll be talking about today. And about 4 years ago, I started the Blue Beauty movement with Project Blue Beauty, which is about celebrating, championing, and inspiring brands to go beyond green and actually look for ways to make a positive impact on the environment through their business. And it's not just Beauty Heroes brands; these are brands all over the world who are doing amazing things and innovating and really, finding ways to be regenerative to the planet.
Great, thank you so much for being here. Michael, let's go to you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. So my name is Michael Beresford. I'm the founder and president of Moor Spa Incorporated, based in Vancouver, Canada. So I've been in the industry since 1998, and we specialize in producing 100% natural source skincare, body care, and wellness products for the spa industry, based on the healing properties of our Austrian Moor mud. And so we have a very wide range of products. Now it's up to about 90 different products. And once we had switched or converted all of our formulations over to natural ingredients without using any kind of petroleum derivatives or synthetic ingredients, our attention turned to the packaging of our products. And I spent a long time and a lot of effort on trying to find ways to make our packaging biodegradable. And finally, after a few years of searching, we came across a methodology that enabled us to transform most of our packaging. At the moment, we're up to about 80%, and we're aiming to get to about 95% by the end of 2021 in fully biodegradable packaging. And so that's been our main focus. And so, yeah, as far as I know, we're one of the first companies in the industry to do this, to actually convert our packaging to biodegradable alternative.
Great, thank you so much. And Brian, let's go to you.
My name is Brian Bode. I have been in the beauty industry pretty much my whole life. My family comes from, created a international hair product company called Sebastian. So I've been in the world of product development. I've been on more of the artistic design side, working with chemists in product development, and working towards trying to find a way to create products that are more cleaner, non-toxic for the consumer. I've worked for many corporations that are, I hate to say, because they're the ones that are putting out stuff out there that aren't great, but at the same time, I've been really excited to work for people like Procter & Gamble and Coty and Cow and these big companies out there who are driving products out to the consumer that are just extremely toxic and that shouldn't be out there. So it's what's really pushed me and forced me to look at what the alternative is and how can we make a difference, and what can I do not only as an artist but as a business owner and an entrepreneur to try to help that. I worked with a chemist out of Denmark for the past 10 years. I've created a very simple, clean beauty line I have a product called One Hair that's a cleanser and conditioner that works as a salon quality product that is free from sulfate-free, paraben-free, gluten-free, cruelty-free, organic. I live in the Monterey Bay, Big Sur area, so I work with a lot of botanists in Big Sur, creating different things like clary sage, bergamot mints to create our scents. I've dove into the packaging world pretty big time, trying to find a way to create an anti-packaging method. I went to school at the Art Center in Pasadena, and I have a degree in art direction there. And while I was there, I studied for a long time about how to create this anti-packaging concept. How do I deliver a shampoo that's not in a bottle? And it's very, very frustrating, and it's very difficult. I believe I'm doing the best I can right now. However, I believe innovation and technology is going to help me be a better company as we move forward. My packaging is, is made of sugarcane. I've been working with a company out of Brazil. It's better than using plastic. I'm definitely a lot more sustainable than most things that are sitting on the shelf. I do want to be better. And I'm interested in this meeting because hopefully I can meet people and we can help drive conversation, and it will help drive my business to be the best I can be and take responsibility in my own ideas and my own creations as an entrepreneur. So thank you for having me here, and I look forward to the conversation.
And Brian,
Thanks,
I'm curious. Sorry about that, Joanna. I am curious, like, what drove you to want to make sustainability one of your values?
I believe that the individual actions can add up to global impacts. And I feel like when I work with people like Procter & Gamble and Coty and these big corporations, and you see how they just don't care, that it's, when you look at so many, even the certifications and credentials of some of these companies, and these bigger companies, like everybody is so tied in together that it's so hard as a manufacturer to sift through honesty and transparency. So I can imagine being a consumer, how difficult it is. So I think, what really pushes me is to make a difference, to be a leader, and to make sure that my kids' future is secure, and I can do everything I can to protect the planet and my family and all my clients' families. And if I can do that, then I think that's a good enough reason to do it,
Yeah, it's very true. And that's one of the things that I really love about GSN too, is it's all about growing greener. It's like finding those little things to do something a little better along the way and constantly striving to do more. Michael, I'm curious, what made you want to reformulate your products?
To reformulate them? Well, I'd always been sort of fairly passionate about natural products. When we first started in the industry back in the 90s, we were importing a product line actually from Austria, and it was based on the therapeutic properties of the Moor mud. But a lot of the other products that the company was manufacturing at the time, they weren't really natural, and I sort of just realized that was the direction the industry was going in, and so we decided that we needed to basically create our own product line. And so in order to make the products 100% natural. So that was really the motivation. It was also, I have a background in sciences, and I sort of had this sort of strong feeling that a lot of the chemicals that are used still very widely in our industry can have a very long-term negative impact. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to actually for people to experience it directly, because you never know, like, if you have an ingredient that is potentially harmful, you're not going to really know that it's harmful in the short term. It's really the long-term impacts of a lot of the chemicals that are used that are of most concern. And unfortunately, a lot of the testing that's done both by government organizations and by chemical companies is very short-term based. You know, they do safety testing, which is really usually only over a few month period, and it's really the impact over use over many years, which is of most concern. So that was what drove us to switch or focus our attention on natural product formulation. But in terms of packaging, what really drove me to really start thinking about that was just, you know, those images that I'm sure we've all seen of the Great Pacific Garbage Dump, and, you know, whales and dolphins and seals being, you know, ingesting plastics into their body. And I'd always thought that, you know, if we had a really good recycling program, then that would be sufficient. But unfortunately, I realized fairly early on that recycling is not the answer, because unfortunately, only about 10% of recyclable plastics actually end up getting recycled. So this, you know, it was fairly depressing to see that. And so it was then that I realized we really had to focus on making our product packaging biodegradable, and you know, spent a lot of time looking at the different options that are out there, and there's not really a lot of option, unfortunately. So it took quite a long time, and but finally we found a really good solution to it.
Great. And Jeannie, out of curiosity, like what was your inspiration for wanting to work on Project Blue Beauty? And don't forget to unmute.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I've been thinking about this. I'm writing a letter to our customers all around the world about Earth Day, and I've been thinking about my deeper why around why this is important to me, because it's, you know, it's become like the thing that I'm most interested in. And it reminds me of, you know, back in like you know, sort of the awareness around the environment and the products that I didn't always have this awareness. You know, it's been a gradual sort of awakening. And the same thing happened with ingredients, right? We heard a rumor that there were some ingredients in the products we were using in our spas that might not be good for us. And then there was some research to back it up. And then you know, there was more research, then the internet came on, and then we could really kind of, you know, get some standards around it. And the same thing happened with the environment. And, you know, just like everybody here, you know, I feel a sense of responsibility if I'm going to, you know, as business owners, I think we all feel like if we're going to put products on people, they shouldn't be bad for them. It's a total no-brainer. We all feel that way. And the same thing is like, if we know that there's a better alternative for you know, packaging or the way that we're doing business, we're going to adopt that, because we naturally, that's our natural inclination to want to do well. And it's surprising to me how that isn't natural for like everybody in the world, right? And I thought about it, I kind of went one level further as to why maybe there's sort of a fire in me around it. And what I realized is that it's similar to ingredients. What I discovered, and one of the reasons I wanted to start Beauty Heroes was because through my career, I was duped. I felt duped by brands. Like I would ask them these questions about, you know, ingredients and were they good, you know, is this free of this or that or whatever. And I didn't know. I was really naive as I was kind of fumbling around. And I learned later that I was really duped. I saw several instances where I was actually lied to, and it was really like shocking to me. And I felt like I'd been had. And when I think about, you know, the industry and like the way that we do things, what I realized is that everything and the way that we package products and use products was very intentional to be single use. You know, it was designed to make industry and make money. And, you know, the idea of a refillable bottle like existed, like somebody decided that it's actually more profitable to create an industry around plastic, and, you know, let's not do refillables. And, you know, it's kind of like a straw, the most simple sort of analogy I have for a straw. Like I have stainless steel straws and glass straws, but stainless steel straws are really like a fork. They're no different, right? If you go to a restaurant, you run it through the dishwasher and you put it back out. You can deliver it on the table just like a fork. But somebody decided, let's make them out of plastic, so you have to repurchase them all the time. And I sort of feel like I got duped. We all got duped into this single-use culture that I'm totally, you know, a part of. And through the, you know, we talk about things like innovation right now. You know, like why did, you know, it's like a bar of soap, solid personal care, not really innovative. Like soap started out as a bar. People used to wash everything with the bar of soap. And so we're kind of going back to rediscovering what's better for the planet, and what's better, you know, and finding products that, you know, we're sort of uninventing rather than innovating. You know, it's sort of like we're breaking it down. So I guess part of like why I'm passionate about it is, first of all, it feels good to find things like that, to find ways that we can live lighter on the planet and still have like beautiful things. Like that's a fun exploration for me. But it also feels good to undo what's been done. And that's sort of a new, you know, sort of a new aha moment for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more about undoing what's been done. And that's sort of how I got onto this side of things as well. I've sort of started out more on the agricultural side of getting more into the green industry when we were starting up our skincare company. And when you start to learn about ag, which is where, you know, our ingredients are coming from, like our clean ingredients that are coming from, it's really scary stuff. You've got most crops are sprayed with glyphosate, for example. Glyphosate was the major supplier of glyphosate was Monsanto. I mean, the major supplier of Agent Orange here in Vietnam was Monsanto. And so they took this Agent Orange, they sort of tweaked it just slightly and then turned it into glyphosate. And glyphosate is sprayed on majority of the crops in the US. It's destroying our soil. It's moving us away from regenerative agriculture. And so, you know, when I was looking into skincare, I thought it needed to really start at the farm level. We needed to rethink how we were doing everything. And even on organic farms, for example, powdery mildew, botrytis, these things are all very common in the ag industry. People spray xylitol onto these crops, and xylitol will burn through your skin. You have to wear gloves all the way up to your elbows in it. And so, you know, we were thinking, you know, what is something that could possibly take the place of xylitol? And so we started looking at nature, and what we found was when lightning strikes the ocean, something called hypochlorous acid is made. Also, it's your body's natural infection fighting compound. And so we synthesized it with just water, salt, and electricity, sprayed it on the plants, and then poof, powdery mildew disappeared off the plant. And then the plant started having an increased yield of about 30%. And so, you know, our whole thing is that, you know, the world has been evolving for millions of years, and we need to start to look to things that are more occurring in nature than human made, because nature and evolution really does create the strongest products. I mean, you think about some of the biggest medical breakthroughs in the past century, penicillin, that's literally just comes from fungi. And so I think it's really important that as one of the panelists said earlier about, you know, doing something small. If everyone does something small, it really adds up. And, you know, that is extremely true, that, you know, all of us need to, you know, sort of rethink what we're doing to sort of turn back the time machine, because sustainability is more than just being green. It's about, you know, economic development balanced with, you know, sustainability in the sense of ecological, and also in, you know, social well-being. And so, you know, I think everyone here definitely is trying to pull in all of these things together to really create an equilibrium.
And Hugh, I'm kind of curious, like where did your interest in actually trying to do something good for the planet come from?
You know, I started rock climbing when I was 6 years old, and so I grew up in Tennessee before I moved to Colorado, and unfortunately in Tennessee we'd go out to these really beautiful climbing areas, and you would literally be like hiking out a couple miles, and then you would see like tires and like junkyard cars, and people would take their trash out instead of recycling or going to a garbage dump, and it was just really it really had a strong impact on me and just made me sick to see these really beautiful areas that were just being destroyed. And so, that sort of gave me the green, the sense of like wanting to be green and protect our environment. Because for me, over everything, over economic development, social development, it's about preserving the world.
Jeannie, what are your goals for both organizations over the next few years when it comes to sustainability?
Yeah, so we are, we're looking at how we can continue to grow our positive impact on the environment. So the way that we do that, I would say there's a couple ways that we do that to consumers. The first is we put out a lot of educational content in a really try to be really engaging, fun, on brand, speak to them the way that we want to, in the same way that we want to talk about, a new lipstick color or a new skincare ingredient. We also want to talk about sustainability. Like it's all should be fun, positive, and something really to aspire to. So we talk about it a lot. We have a Blue Beauty campaign every month so that is one way on the consumer side. The second way on the consumer side is to be an early adopter towards innovation. So when there are products that help our customers live lighter on the planet, we want to champion them early on to try to create that groundswell of adoption and give them the tools, I would say, the Beauty Heroes customers like the truly conscious consumer. And from them, they tell their friends, they bring it to their family. And we're trying to grow awareness for, for new products and innovation in that way. On professionally, one way that we have, I think, really effectively created more energy around initiatives that are actually give back to the environment is championing our brands who are putting these initiatives in place. So what happened early on is I was working with maybe 10 brands that had truly incredible initiatives that were making a positive impact on the environment, whether it was working with farms in Hawaii to help build them up, whether it was, planting moringa trees in Ghana and, sustaining, using every part of the moringa tree and just really telling those stories. So what we did is we started to tell those stories in a really loud way. And then what happened is that other brands wanted to have their stories told. And so, now if there are 3 brands who have recently become B Corp certified, this is actually really true. Like we've had 3 brands that have been B Corp certified. We will go out to our customers and really say, listen, it's really hard to become a B Corp. This is what it means. This is what these brands have really invested a lot, and educate them on what that actually means. So by doing that, we're sort of pulling more brands and more companies into this movement. And then on our own end, we plant a tree with every order, and we pull 1 pound of plastic out of the environment with every order. And we really look at that as a starting point. We really want to grow that to something more significant and more substantial. So those are really my goal is to be able to do more with Beauty Heroes, and certainly with Project Blue Beauty, we've got a lot coming out with that platform.
That is very cool about the B Corp certification too. I think it's kind of interesting. I'm very proud to say that the spa that I own was the first like in the world to be a certified B Corp. And I was expecting there to be more organizations because our industry is so focused on health and wellness, and sustainability goes hand in hand with that. So I really hope that stories like all of you are sharing today help inspire others to really look into figuring out a way not just to get the B Corp certification, but to use that as a tool to figure out what those little changes can be to make that big difference. Michael, I'm kind of curious on some of the challenges that you feel like you've come across in your sustainability goals.
Yeah, well, I guess the biggest challenge of all for me was actually finding something that was going to work. One of the challenges we have is that because our products are 100% natural source, that means that we don't use any synthetic preservatives. And one of the good things about synthetic preservatives is that they're very effective, right? And you need to have an effective way of preserving your products. So we use like a natural-based preservative system, but it's not nearly as robust as synthetic preservatives. And so we need to support that by using packaging that doesn't allow people to stick their fingers into a product. So, you know, it's really difficult to create a really green, eco-friendly product and have it in a jar or a bottle that allows people can pollute by direct contact. So we have used you know, airless packaging primarily, and also tubes to deliver our products, because they support the natural preservative system that we're using. And so there are obviously, you know, alternatives to plastic in the industry that are now becoming quite prevalent, including things like paper packaging and bioplastics. You know, one of the things I found out about bioplastics was that they're not actually biodegradable. They're the same as petroleum-based plastics, in the sense that they're not biodegradable. They have, in order to recycle them, they have to be taken to an incinerator, and they're incinerated, and the residues from that can be used in compost. But the actual bioplastics themselves, the polymers, are the same really as petroleum ones. And so that was one of the biggest challenges, of actually finding something that is viable and that will work. And then one of the other problems is that once you've found a packaging solution, then you have to take that a step further and figure out a way to decorate your packaging without using vinyl labels, because vinyl is also non-biodegradable and has the same problems as the packaging does. So what we have done is basically invested a lot of time and effort and money in learning how to do screen printing and actually purchasing screen printing equipment. So we've gone back to sort of old school before labels became so prevalent, and have started actually printing directly on our packaging to avoid having to use labels. So those are probably the most challenging things that we found. And, you know, unfortunately, airless type packaging and tube type packaging is not really available in either paper or obviously glass. So you're fairly limited as to what you can do with those kinds of constraints.
Yeah, Michael, I think that I hear you with those challenges, and I've struggled with, you know, studying the impacts of bioresin and making the comparison between the two, of a petroleum-based plastic and using a bioresin. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, when I'm working with my chemists and manufacturers, and we're using the cleanest beauty ingredients that you can, all, you know, the ingredients we're using are plant-based and coconut derived and so on and so forth. Especially when using hair products, you know, it's very difficult. I mean, it's hard to use a paper base. It's hard to use glass in a shower. You've got all these different challenges that you're working with. But I also see one of the biggest challenges is being that we haven't talked about is shipping. You know, and working with the UPS and FedEx and how these products have to be shipped, and we're being kind of pigeonholed into a corporate structure that there's no way as an independent brand that I can change. So it's really difficult to, I find one of the biggest challenges is definitely shipping, and also waste management systems. You touched on that a little bit. The inconsistencies of waste management systems from state to state, city to city. I live in California. Our waste management system here is completely different than, let's say, Lake Tahoe. I went to Lake Tahoe and they didn't even recycle. They didn't even think about it. Whereas in Monterey, it's a very prevalent, you know, everyone's gonna do everything they can to recycle, even though, like you're saying, only 10% end up getting recycled anyways. So it's I think the challenge is so big and it's so hard to tackle as an independent entrepreneur that doesn't have millions and millions of dollars behind me to support its decisions. You know, I find education to the consumer. I mean, it's going to cost you $1 million to educate a consumer on things that really, you know, let's take ammonia, for instance. You know, we use ammonia in hair color, and hair coloring in the beauty industry is a huge impact into the environment. You have extremely caustic dye molecules. There's multiple reasons why it impacts the environment. But when you really look at ammonia, it's really not that of caustic of an ingredient. We, you know, excrete it every day out of our bodies. So it's hard to educate the consumer, because a lot of times it's a trend. It's a word. It's terminology that's been placed out there, and it's kind of hard to take on that whole momentum to try to change somebody's perception of what is good and what is bad. And it gets so confused in the transparency and honesty of the ingredients. But, you know, I mean, those are a few of the challenges that I've been involved in. And again, at some level, I just have to be as good as I can possibly be and try to figure out ways to the future of every single thing I do is going to push towards being the best I can be. So I want to continue to look at nature. I think what Hugh said is really key. I was able to go down to the rainforest and spend a lot of time and look at how natives are shampooing their hair in the river. You know, oh, there's a soap bark tree, you know, that creates foam. Oh, great, I don't have to use sodium lauryl sulfate. Or there's things that are going on in these markets down there that are really pushing change. So I am totally 100% with Hugh on looking at nature, looking at ways that I can change it. But I think that the corporate structure of the delivery system, the shipping system, the waste management systems, I think these are all at the core of what truly needs to change. And what do you guys feel is going to change that?
You know what's really interesting that you say the word ammonia is because one of our struggles is a very similar form of that nitrogen. It's ammonium chloride, or quaternary ammonium as well. And so quaternary ammonium was first synthesized in the 1930s, and it is a disinfectant. It's probably in around 90% of the disinfectants that we use. And when you talk to a spa, it was really interesting. You know, when I talk to a spa about skincare and they're going through our product, they're looking at every single ingredient, which is fantastic. And then you go, well, what are you guys disinfecting with around your spa? And they go, oh, well, maybe Cavicide, or if you're at a like a salon, it's going to be Barbicide, or you're cleaning tools in this. Well, something that's very scary is there's studies out there. For example, there's one that came out 2 years ago that studied, I think it was 60,000 nurses in a hospital environment. Nurses that clean just once a week with quaternary ammonium are 30% more likely to develop COPD, which is directly related to lung cancer. Quaternary ammonium has been linked to so many different things, but yet, for some reason, when we think about cleaning and disinfecting, we go, no, we've got to have the hard stuff. I don't think that the green, don't give me the green, give me the stuff that's going to burn it away. And it's not true at all. And so right now, everyone's trying to disinfect more than ever. But the problem is we're going to create a whole nother issue down the line. I have schools that we sell to that have children who are touching with their bare hands quaternary ammonium wipes after every single class, and just wiping their desks off and then throwing it, throwing this non-biodegradable wipe away afterwards. And so there's going to be this huge generation of kids who are going to develop asthma. We've seen it in the New Jersey EMS. People started developing asthma within 4 months. And so, for spas, I think it's really important to think completely holistically and not just about the products that you're carrying and, how the environment is going to be affected, because, every reaction has another reaction that happens. And so there's just a lot of really scary chemicals that are still being used in a spa right now, because that is the status quo. It hasn't changed since the 1930s.
Yeah, I completely agree with you about looking at the bigger picture. It's not just about making sure that we kill a virus, but it's about making sure that we're doing things that are good for our health, in the long run, while still having safe practices. There are options out there, but it's education, right? I remember, Brian, I think you mentioned something about it takes $1 million to educate a customer. I'm kind of curious. I really liked about what you said about what is it going to take to change our shipping practices and the larger corporations. I feel like there's this ongoing conversation of being well, it's the consumer's responsibility to make the right decisions for the environment. But looking around, I feel like I spend hours and hours and hours researching, just trying to find something that's not as bad for the environment. So I'm kind of curious, do any of you have any thoughts on what is it going to take for these larger corporations to make a shift in their business practices?
Are you talking about shipping? We ship, so Beauty Heroes, we have our warehouse right downstairs. We ship globally, and I would say, we have this tiny Amazon warehouse. I mean, it's big for me. I never imagined Beauty Heroes would be this big, but we have a lot of brands. Amazon's 5 million times bigger than this. But because we ship in-house, I will say we'll never use a 3PL. We will always ship in-house. What's the question about shipping? I could talk about shipping all day. When I started, I was a spa director who studied hospitality management and never thought I was going to become an expert in shipping. I know everything about shipping, everything a lot more than I ever imagined I would know. So,
well, I'm just curious what you think it's going to take for these larger businesses just to change their business practices to have sustainability in mind.
So using better materials for shipping?
Yeah. Instead of all of the plastic that gets shipped with an Amazon order, what is it going to take for them to start using plastic, or actually putting I don't know, something that's this big, not in a box that's this big? Logistically, that doesn't even make any sense to me, but I'm also not an expert in shipping, so maybe there's something I'm missing.
I think it's a combination of consumer feedback and demand and government oversight. At some point, they're banning and unbanning plastic bags in grocery stores and things like that. Consumers and activists need to certainly get involved, and there needs to be some oversight, and globally they need to, I think it's all coming actually, in terms of that. But one of the things people don't maybe necessarily think about is that, with shipping with FedEx and UPS, we don't even have a FedEx or a UPS account or a DHL account at Beauty Heroes. We ship everything through the mail. And that's because that's because it goes on the regular mail truck. So mail trucks coming to everybody's house every day. So you're not adding carbon footprint to your shipment. I will say we've had so much good luck with shipping that way. And I don't know, I mean, I think shipping's, you know, in terms of that system, there's much to be said about that, but I always marvel at the fact that anybody ships FedEx or UPS, because USPS is a lot faster and it's better, you know, it's better for the environment because you're not adding a trip, either to pick up, you know, like it's so interesting when we have vendors are like, oh, you know, the FedEx truck didn't come today. They're coming tomorrow morning to pick up the package for, you know, for our vendors to ship to us. And I'm like, you know, sad that the FedEx truck needs to come to you to get that package, or you need to go and drop it at the FedEx store when, you know, you can just ship it out via USPS and it's really reliable and really, you know, I think better than FedEx and UPS. So, but as far as that, I mean, one of the things you can do, one of the things we're working on doing this, and it's modeled after a company that I saw do this. And so if anybody's out there shipping, Bite toothpaste, these toothpaste tabs, you should all try them. They're amazing if you haven't tried them. I'm totally obsessed with them. But when they ship your order, they have their order confirmation actually tells you how they're shipping and why they're shipping that way. And it's a really good consumer education. As you were talking about consumer education, you know, it's such a cool way. Like they sent it to me, it has content on it, which leads to a blog that goes even deeper. Now, every time a customer places an order, every time I place an order with Bite, I get that email and I'm reminded, oh yeah, this is how they're shipping and why they're shipping. And it makes me feel more loyal to this company. So I don't know, I think there's so many different ways to educate the consumer. And you have to be creative. Social media has actually made it so much easier than it's ever been, because now we have this direct line to consumers. And then, you know, you can have influencers who can help tell your story even better and in a more authentic voice than you can. And yeah, so I just think, you know, yeah, consumer education is a huge challenge. I mean, we work at it. It's an ongoing thing forever and ever. But in terms of shipping, I don't know, I can answer lots of questions about how we do it and try to minimize our impact.
I think awesome. A really huge thing that we can do right now is trying to get manufacturing back to the US. You know, if we're talking about pressuring large companies into making changes right now, you've got widgets made all over the world. And then, you know, if you're looking at the actual carbon emissions that are happening from, you know, manufacturing, you know, 1 million different products or different raw materials everywhere, and then shipping them to get all put together somewhere else, and then putting them on a boat and sending them to a port. Like this can be such a huge impact just for the US, because I think sustainability is more than just you know, thinking about the green initiative side of things, but it's also about, you know, creating well-being for people, and, you know, creating jobs and those sorts of things. And so, you know, not only can we reduce carbon footprint by making manufacturing here in the US, but additionally, like for us, you know, we pay a carbon offset tax on every single shipment. It's just automatic. There's so many different apps out there right now that integrate with your website. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to do a carbon offset tax. And so, you know, while we're waiting for the infrastructure for solar power to start to come out, and like semi trucks that are, you know, running electric off a solar grid, you know, I think the carbon offset tax is something very small. But if everyone starts to do that, then it can make a really large impact.
Agreed. That's really cool that you guys do that. I didn't know that. Michael, out of curiosity, like, what do you think is the next thing that we should be focusing on to make the biggest impact on our environment?
Sure. Well, from my perspective, I mean, I'm, as you probably have gathered, I'm very focused on the whole packaging issue, because I feel it's just such a massive problem for, the problem of plastic proliferation. It goes way beyond just the impact on the oceans and marine mammals and so on. As I'm sure you're all aware, there's the whole problem of microplastics, and that's getting a lot of publicity these days, that unfortunately plastics are left to themselves, they don't actually degrade at all. They just basically get smaller and smaller and smaller and end up as extremely fine particles. And nowadays, they found microplastics in the Arctic Circle, and in most people's bloodstreams, there's evidence of the existence of microplastics. Is so ubiquitous. So that really is it's such a big problem that it sort of takes all my attention. And so from my perspective, where I want to take this is to find ways to integrate this technology that we discovered from a company in the UK called Symphony Environmental, who produce a substance that you can add to plastics that makes them fully biodegradable. In fact, I just got today a summary of a piece of research that was done in France by the French National Research Agency. And what it did was it confirmed the laboratory results of this technology. A few years ago, there was a place called Queen Mary College at the University of London, and they did electron microscope imaging of plastics that had been treated with this material. And it showed, you could actually see that gradually over a few weeks that they start to form bacteria colonies on this plastic, and the whole plastic just starts to break down. You can actually see it happening in real time. And but a lot of people said, well, that's in a laboratory. What about in the real world? What about in the ocean? Is it going to have the same effect? And this study that was done in France has just shown that exactly the same thing happens in the open water. And it hasn't been published yet. It's going to be published within the next couple of months. And it's very, very exciting. It basically shows that this technology really, really does work. But the great thing about it is it can also be used in bioplastics. So it can be used to make bioplastics fully biodegradable without having to take them to an incinerator. One of the problems with that is that, as we found through the issues with recycling, that it puts the onus on the consumer to make sure that their products, their recyclable packaging, gets into a recycle bin and ends up in a recycling plant. The same is true with bioplastics, that there is an onus on the consumer to make sure that those end up in an incinerator where it's going to be processed to create the compostable debris or ash from that process. So I think if we can find ways to combine this and similar technologies with bioplastics, that will be a fantastic step forward. And also the other issue with packaging is that it's not just the plastics, but it's the other components that go into the materials, things like films and other chemicals which are used to treat the plastics, and these have been found to be possibly hormone disruptors and can create all kinds of havoc in the physiology as well. So those are the challenges. It's really finding ways to integrate these what's called oxo-biodegradable technologies with bioplastics, and also find ways to eliminate the use of other chemicals which they use to treat those plastics, which can have adverse effects on the physiology as well. So that's sort of my main area of interest and focus right now.
It's kind of sad about what you're talking about is we got introduced to a group at MIT that was doing something similar, where there is an additive to a polymer to help it biodegrade. And we took it to plastic blowers around the US, because with Clean Republic, when you have a hospital grade disinfectant, it actually has to be in plastic, just because it's such a strong product. And every plastic blower that we went to said, yeah, that sounds great, but you're going to have to take up an entire line every month, and you're talking millions and millions of no one showed any interest, who is a plastic blower, of even thinking about, switching up what they're doing right now to start to using these additives right now. And it was really frustrating for us when we were saying it's really just 1 or 2 extra steps in your process. Can you already have the molds that we're using, is there any way that we could, try this out? And, no one seemed to even care whatsoever.
Just let me know, Hugh, and I can tell you who's doing it and how you can do it.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Well, going a little bit more on where I think the attention should be. I think it's the collaboration of combining like the whole supply chain. I think it's really, that's what I'm looking at focusing on. I have been talking, I live in the middle of ag world, being from the Salinas Valley and in this area. So it's really working closely with them. I was also lucky enough to know a gentleman who created a company called Aveda. He passed away now, and in the very beginning, or in the very end of his life, he created another company that he actually went out and started farming his own ingredients as well for his new product line. I love that. I love that thought. I have been in that conversation with multiple farmers. And Hugh, I'd love to reach out to you too and pick your brain a little bit more about that. So just collaborating in everything I can through the whole supply chain. I've also been talking to a lot of people in the hospitality industry. I do have a product that I created that is a hair and body bar. It's created a lot of interest in the hospitality, single-use plastics. I've put some energy into creating a hair conditioning bar and also a body lotion bar that is activated with the heat of your skin. Those 3 bars housed in a very sustainable bamboo box, or we haven't, still design R&D right there. As far as a travel box and creating a way for hospitality to be 100% biodegradable and 0 plastics. That's something that I've been focusing on. How can a consumer walk into a room and have the amenities that they need, achieving the expected results that they want out of those amenities, and then maintaining a way to eliminate single-use plastics in the hospitality industry, in my eyes, is a huge project. Eliminating that single-use plastics from so many different rooms and hotels all over the world would be key for me. So I've been working a lot with the Mandarin out of Hong Kong. I've been working with a few different other hospitality hotel industries and trying to figure out ways to accomplish that. So I think those are the things that I'm doing. Along with that comes with a huge amount of, again, consumer education. I've traveled around the world educating consumers my whole life. That's been what I do, kind of in a different way than what I'm doing now, but I feel like it's still the same. I feel like sitting in a salon environment, all of you people have probably been in a chair in front of a mirror talking to a stylist about what they can do for you, or maybe in a massage table talking to a facialist even. The amount of attention you have as a stylist and the impact you have is really amazing. It's one of those industries that, there's no bot in the world that's going to be able to have that customer relationship. And so it's an interesting industry that we're in the spa and beauty industry. We have the ability and the attention of these consumers. They trust us. It's an honest conversation. And they walk in the door, know that they're going to get what they want, and they love who we are. And I think that impact is huge. So I think we have to take that on as artists and really train hairdressers, train facialists, train the people out there that are directly connected to these consumers, and really start to make them our mini PR people. that are going to go out and educate these people and drive them to where we want to go with our businesses. So that's a lot of where I'm putting my attention and my focus on Bode, and I hope to get there. So
Brian, that was beautifully said and a great way to end our chat today. So thank you so much to all the panelists for being here and for inspiring us to all do a little extra so we can take care of our planet. And thank you so much for everyone else being here today too.
Thanks to everyone who attended.
Thank you all. And thank you, Natasha, for doing a really incredible job of moderating this conversation. Each one of you had something inspirational to say. So thank you for your perspective, and really great to have you as part of GSN.
And I believe we at GSN and us individually all believe that businesses really do have the great opportunity to change and make the greatest impact. So thank you for all that you guys are doing and still striving to do. So thank you. Don't miss tomorrow though.
Yeah.
We have tomorrow we're going to do, it's going to be a guided forest bathing. So if you can get outside at the same time tomorrow, we'll have a guide guiding us through what a forest bathing experience would be. So join us again, same time, same place.
Same back channel. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.